What happens when the person who knows all of your secrets is the one that's exposing them? That's exactly what's happening with Porsha and Shamea, currently on Real Housewives of Atlanta. And today we're going to break down exactly how this childhood friendship has turned into one of the messiest friendship breakups that has carried the entire season. Let's talk about it. If you're new here, I like to go past the messy drama and I like to break down the psychology of a lot of the things that we see on reality TV, because I don't think we give enough credit to how real some of these situations are. I mean, we know people go on these shows and they play characters and producers produce, but a lot of these things are real things that people deal with in everyday life. I thought this was the perfect opportunity to explore how friendship breakups affect people differently and to dissect the dynamic of the two ladies. Currently, we are on the second episode of the reunion. I think it's one more reunion installment left to wrap up this season. Thank God, I'm so ready for it to be over. This season was like a tough watch, but that's another video for another day. We're gonna focus on Shamea and Porsha today. I wanna go back to the blow up that they had in Scotland at the table.
I don't give a what our parents did because they were friends prior to us.
But you posted about my mom. And you didn't post about what your mom did.
Girl,
You want to talk about that?
I don't know their relationship.
Should we talk about that?
I don't know that.
But you knew enough to tell that my mom bought your mom's daycare.
Girl, everybody knows that. It's not a secret.
Yeah, but everybody doesn't know that your mom tried to sleep with my dad.
So the origin of the relationship is the fact that they were childhood friends, childhood best friends as they frame it. They've been friends for over 2 decades. But also, not only were they best friends, their moms were best friends first. I think that's a really important part that a lot of people gloss over way too often. They're friends with each other because their moms were friends. They didn't choose each other. That was like an inherited friendship. If my mom and your mom are always hanging out, we're just here by default. We started seeing cracks in the friendship like a long time ago, and a lot of people from the cast of the previous seasons have stated that Porsha was like not the best friend.
I actually was in your neighborhood yesterday. What you doing? One of our friends moved out there.
Oh, you talking about Porsha? Where? She moved in your neighborhood.
Yeah, she moved into an 8,000 square foot house by herself, girl.
Why would she move to 8,000 square
You
feet?
gonna have to ask her that.
Swear, come back. She's so shady. God. I just told you the news.
Girl, shut up. You a bad
I was
friend.
not surprised you.
No, you weren't. You are a bad
told
friend.
you? Who told you?
Bad etiquette.
Who told you? You know these walls tall. You know these walls tall. Because I talked to all of y'all and said,
You could have called and told me that you was even moving in or looking at a house there. I told you before, I was like, you don't text, you don't call, you are a bad friend. Here.
This is Shamea's second season. In the previous season, she was just a friend of Porsha. So her very first season being a full-time housewife, the cast pretty much chucked her up to be Porsha's lapdog. She's always been in Porsha's shadow, or that's how it's framed on the show. Last season, we saw Shamea trying to navigate the fact that Porsha didn't want her to be a full-time housewife. As Shamea stated, Porsha said, "This is my thing, girl. You need to find your own thing. This is my bread and butter. I'm good at it. I just don't want you over here." Shamea felt the way about it and she tried to address it. Porsha pretty much blew it off. Never really seemed interested that Shamea even had feelings or thoughts. Anytime Shamea brought up anything that made her uncomfortable, Porsha would kind of just blow it off or just divert it back to herself, victimize herself. That's kind of her thing on the show. Aside from the fact that Shamea made it known that Porsha was not thrilled about her being on the show, Porsha in return pretty much said, "That's not true. This girl is lying on me."
Andy, have I always wanted Shamea
Yes.
to be on the
Yes.
show as a housewife?
Yes.
Yes. So moving on from that, now I'm watching live interviews. Someone asks you, where's our friendship stand? You say, well, now that I have a peach, it's different. Well, why?
It is.
I've never talked about you, Shamea, and I'm watching interviews of you saying, I didn't want you on the show. You sang the song of I was
have
trying
to.
to
You
sabotage
that's what
your
you
marriage.
did.
Now we are at our initial beef from the show. This is the thing. I have seen this happen in real time, in real friendship. Somebody that you thought would be there to support you is not there to support you. And that's kind of how it played out on the TV, or that's how it was edited to look. It just didn't seem like Porsha was there for Shamea to be a full-time housewife. Another thing that I think that is important to add in is the fact that Shamea is very rich. We did not know anything about Shamea's personal life prior to her being a full-time housewife on the show. Her debut season, we saw all the riches, all the luxury, all of the housewife aesthetic, everything that we've been missing pretty much from the show since the luxury has left the building and we got the BBL bandits in town. No shade to the BBLs, girl. I would get one too if I had a little coin.
My $9 million house was the second largest sale in Georgia that year. But you know what? I don't even get down like that. I hate being defined by my wealth. If you can afford to buy me the cheapest house tequila at the bar, let's do it. You know, I might spit it over there and then buy us the good stuff.
For the audience, we were like, whoa, Shamea girl, you doing it big. Like, and it came off as very humble. This is Porsha's returning season after her divorce, or while she's going through a divorce. We were expecting African Princess to grace our screens for her 15th marriage, and you know, we thought we were going to see the riches and the luxury there too. And last that we had saw, they were on double dates with their African kings. The audience was confused, like, wait, what just happened? Once Shamea's status changed, I think that's where Porsha like quietly, you know, pulled out of it. On the cast trip to Scotland is where I think everything kind of came to a head. The whole time they were alluding to the problem being much bigger than what even the cast knew. This was a turning point for the friendship simply because at the end of the last reunion, Shamea had to remind Porsha that they had agreed to never discuss whatever transpired amongst their moms. That was a mutual respect and a mutual agreement that they both came to. And Shamea kept reminding her, like, hey, we said we weren't going to talk about that. And also, we're not going to let whatever they have going on or lack thereof affect our friendship. And this goes back to why I said the moms are the most important part of this situation that people are overlooking, because they inherited this friendship. They never chose each other to be friends. They were friends by default because their moms were friends. When two families are fused, there is no neutral ground to retreat to. So you kind of just got to deal with what it is. So attacking the mothers was always low-hanging fruit, because obviously they both know. We know something happened at this point. We don't necessarily know who's telling the truth, but we know something definitely happened amongst the moms. So to even bring that on national television, this friendship breakup was completely inevitable, because how do you come back from this? Now I want to break this down from like a psychological standpoint. Yes, I have my iPad and I do have notes. Like I stated earlier, their moms were best friends. An inherited friendship is pretty much like an inherited family member. Like, you my cousin because you're my cousin and I gotta be cool with you, kinda. But it's plenty of times that we don't like our cousins. Hell, it's plenty of times we don't like our siblings. So it's no different here. They had to get to know each other on their own outside of their moms. I'm not gonna say that they did, and I'm not gonna say that they didn't. It could have just simply been a relationship of convenience. It could have been a real relationship at a point, but they have outgrown each other. And if it's an inherited relationship and they did not choose each other, who's to say that they ever had anything in common? Being adult women, 40 plus, you have to have things in common with the people that you call your friends at this point. We're not just friends anymore because mommy said so. I think this is where Shamea is struggling to let go of the relationship. Shamea seems to come from a background of a family unit, the closeness. It seems like they're very enmeshed from the outside looking in. Coming from a dynamic like that, she probably has this undevoted loyalty and attachment to people that she considers her family. 20 plus friendship, she definitely could consider Porsha as family at a point. On the flip side, allegedly Porsha is the mistress child. Her mom was a single parent. It's been just them two for majority of her life. Porsha is very self-centered, self-absorbed, and she's a very selfish person. But Porsha doesn't have the same definition of family as Shamea does, and I think that's where they clash. The status change was a big deal for this relationship simply because Porsha has been on Housewives for over a decade at this point. She solidified herself with this network. You know, she's a household name. She's famous at this point. Like, we know Porsha, we love Porsha. Porsha has become the face of this show. Now that Shamea is on this show, the power dynamic flips, because Shamea, of course, like we said, we know Shamea was living this life already, but it was in the background. It wasn't broadcasted, so people didn't know. And Shamea obviously didn't put it out there. So we didn't know what Shamea had going on in that context. And I'm sure Shamea is a boss in her own right. I think she acts, sings, right? I know she's a host. I've been to the Hawks games and I've seen her host. I know she was on the radio, you know, all of these things. So Shamea had a life outside of the show and outside of her husband, but I think she wanted to be on the show, as she should, because she is a housewife, and that's what the show is about. Like, the lifestyle that she lives is what the show is actually about. So it makes a lot of sense. But I think this shifted the power dynamic, and it took the attention off of Porsha. Porsha wants everything to be about Porsha. So now I have to share the spotlight with my friend. Completely believe that Porsha did not want Shamea to come on the show. That's exactly how she's behaving on the show. She's behaving on the show as if she doesn't know this lady, like, and she's never known her, which is the oddest thing to me. The dynamic that we're seeing right now is Porsha trying to take back the power. She's trying to balance the scales back out. Well, really, she's trying to flip the scales in the other direction, because at a point they were balancing on the show. So season 16, it was straight triangulation. You had Angela and you had Drew constantly bringing Porsha up, you know, trying to get Shamea to feed into things. I think Britt even did it as well too. And eventually she did start to say things and kind of like open up about like her feelings about where the friendship was at. So, of course, Messy Boots, they took that and they ran with it, and it turned into something completely different. And that set up the plot for season 17. So with season 17, you saw that this half attempt to reconcile and fix the friendship, Porsha pretty much telling Shamea to get over it. I thought we apologized for it. You keep bringing stuff up. You keep finding new things to be, you know, upset at. When it's essentially, they never really addressed anything. It was kind of like always very brief and she off-putting. This season, you see Shamea just kind of blowing it off because the same people are trying to triangulate her again. With her not really engaging in it this season, it still turned into, and she ended up being kind of isolated. I think this is a power play tactic because at the end of the day, Porsha and Shamea, they know each other. They know each other's secrets. So I think Porsha knows that Shamea is not a confrontational person. I think the audience knows that at this point. My next point, where even with Shamea expressing her grievances, it was always competing narratives. What has been clear about how it's been presented on the show is the fact that Shamea definitely is grieving this friendship, grieving it, and she's grieving it hard, and we can all see it. That's the part that, you know, it's kind of hard to watch. I get it. If we're friends and we're on a TV show, I get it. You got to play a role, right? Shamea comes off as the person that if it's serious to her, she wants it to be serious to you as well. And I do feel like that's a mutual respect, especially when you've been friends for so long. But Porsha was not giving her anything. Shamea has this really deep desire to please people, to make people happy. You can tell she's not used to not being liked. And I think that's the problem what the audience is having with the connection with her. So where do they go from here? Where do they stand? What's gonna happen? What happens next? What I've seen, Shamea is still on the fence. She seems like she's still open to reconciliation. She also seems like she's still very confused on how they even got to this place. Like, girl, where have you been? As for Porsha, she keeps referring to Shamea as a low down dirty dog. There was a lot of B words exchanged on this last reunion. It got really heated, really nasty. And my take is that it's just a complete imbalance. Like I've already said, the friendship has always been imbalanced, and it probably was always going to be imbalanced. So it was pretty much inevitable that they would end up here. But something tells me this is not over yet. Even though we are exhausted with it, something tells me that this is going to drag on even further. That's my full breakdown. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Do you think they will ever reconcile? Or is the relationship just done? Make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe. And make sure you leave all of your thoughts in the comments below. And I will see you guys tomorrow.